Welcome back. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. This is the one and only IT in the D Show. I'm your host, Bob Waltenspiel. Always hanging out with producer, co-host extraordinaire, Randy Walker. Guest this week, the woman with 1,000 titles. I kid, but no, this is I can't wait to dive into what you're doing. Christina Fair is in the house. Per her title, she's a co-founder, COO of Hum, founder, CEO of Reconnect, startup advisor, angel investor, mom and wife. I love it. But we're going to dive into all the projects she has, the startup scene that she's involved in heavily, a couple of the nonprofits that caught my eye too. But you can find us online at itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere. Fine podcasts are sold.
And this episode will have dropped. Last night would have been the Ann Arbor IT and the D meetup. We'll report on how that goes next time. And then the Detroit side, we will be back at Detroit Shipping Company on April 16th, third Thursday of the month, as always. And I don't know, outside, inside, upstairs, downstairs, play it by ear.
Upstairs, private room. Yeah, because people, the intermingling and all that stuff, it was bad. But you can find us at meetup.com/IT in the D every third Thursday, 5:00 until question mark. No speakers, no agenda, no cover, just a bunch of IT folks. We had a long talk this past weekend at PenguinCon about business cards. I say no bueno. I say just bring LinkedIn QR code. Randy had a good tip to take a screenshot of it because LinkedIn is not user friendly when it comes to finding it. So grabbing a screenshot, and did you use it as your what's your double tap, Randy?
Shortcut set up, so I triple tap the back of my phone and my QR code pops up. But another tip is just set it as your lock screen wallpaper so that you can just show it easily that way.
Do you remember pre-COVID, I wanted to burn QR codes to the ground. I wanted to wipe them from existence. And then restaurants didn't want to give you menus anymore, and QR codes got me beer. So I'm like, ooh, QR code. But Christina, how are you? Thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you guys for having me. Hi, everybody.
I am I'm happy. I see, it's funny. We haven't met in person. Usually the people that come on the show I've met, and I kept seeing you do cool things on LinkedIn. Like, I need to either know this human or I need to interview this human. So again, I sincerely appreciate your time.
And hopefully both. Hopefully I get to see you in person soon too.
Yeah, no, we're always out and about. Let me run through it and then we'll figure this, because this is this is good. So you are, okay, I'm looking at founder, COO of Hum. Basically, it's an internet service thing. We'll dive into that. Founded Reconnect, helping brokerages and mortgage companies in their operations. Ann Arbor SPARK, entrepreneur in residence. I'm dying to know more about that. Executive director at the Detroit Executives Association. And I want to start at the bottom. You're on the board of Bees in the D. Now, I did not know there was a Bees. Randy knew about it. I did not, because when we started IT in the D, it was like 14 years ago. Came up like the name, and that was like right when it only was like live in the D and 106.7 the D were like the only, and then we started seeing Chickpea in the D and Menorah.
I missed Chickpea in the D. That place was so good.
I thought I heard them all. Right, but I thought I heard them all. But Bees in the D, and I've never heard of it. I need to hear more.
We have been around for about 11 years now. I think we just crossed over our 11-year anniversary. Started with a teacher, very best friend of mine. His name is Brian, and he's a teacher in Rochester Public Schools. And he was passionate about beekeeping and saving the bee population. And so we started with a hive here or there. We do all urban beekeeping. So bees on basically every rooftop all across Metro Detroit, like Shinola Hotel and Huntington Place, all of those things. And restaurants have our honey. We now are becoming best known because our honey is in all the Meijer locations, and we've got a liquor collab with Detroit City Distillery. So if you go into most liquor stores now, you'll see our Bees in the D honey whiskey, honey bourbon. And then
is there a mead?
There are meads all over the place. Yeah. So yeah, we have a fun time with it. We've got, I think now about 350 to 400 hives, depending on how it shakes out this spring, across all of our locations.
So like the booze funds the beekeeping? Is this
a little bit of both? Yep, on both sides.
But yeah, I never heard of it. Not because I'm not looking for it, or you just don't like. I always hear of the urban gardens. I always hear of like kind of a resurgence of like getting parks and getting things like in the city and But like the bee thing, that's completely. Is it that you don't? Let me ask you this: is it that you don't want to be known, or is it like am I just like? Did it just miss me?
It might have just missed you. We do events all over the place because we do honey harvest, and then we do a lot of educational events at the downtown Detroit community centers. And we're a huge partnership, obviously, with Bedrock. So all of the gardens that you see all along like the Woodward corridor are all pollinator friendly, so that our bees have the ability to come down from the rooftops and make sure that they are pollinating properly. And I don't know, we're kind of all over the place right now. But we've got Detroit Hives and then Bees in the D. Detroit Hives does urban beekeeping as well, but they specialize in residential. And then we took over the commercial side.
Got it. You know what it is? It's like when you buy a Jeep and you're like, there's no Jeeps on the road. Then you buy a Jeep, then you see 1,000 Jeeps the next day. I'm going to see it now every quarter I turn. I'm going to, it's totally, now that I'm aware.
Thanks.
Super cool. Let's get into, I guess, well, you know what? I want to talk about Ann Arbor SPARK. It's something that we've always seen. We've always have been around. Is like, we were kind of more on the community side. They were always on the more startup incubator side. So our paths kind of like overlaid like 5%.
When they should be, we should be overlapping a lot more than that. Like all of these things, right?
We should be overlapping a lot more. Well, like IT and the D historically, we were more focused on jobs because we were seeing half the people at our meetups were out of work. So we really like went double down on all that, but we never really focused on not necessarily the business. We were so non-promotion that I think it drove a lot of it away. But I think now you're looking at this resurgence in the startup community. Something we got to jump in head first, I think. But in terms of, I'm just looking at, supporting founders as they navigate early growth leadership and operational structure. What's, I loved, what's the show with Marcus Lemonis? It was like Shark Tank, but he got his hands dirty. He always talked about it's product, people, process. And he goes, and if one of them's broke, the whole, it's like a wheel.
I always say people, process, technology. Those are the things, right? People,
tech.
process, tech.
All right, I got to get into tech. So what's usually people, I think, unless there's two partners that are fighting, I think the people thing is always fine. Is it the process? I guess, what do you find to be the most common issues or headbutting or stuff that goes on in a lot of these startups?
You'd be surprised. There's actually a lot more on the people side. In Detroit proper, I think, and just Midwest in general, we see a lot of really smart people with really great ideas. And so, that's one of the things I love the most about our founder community is that it's so diverse and people feel really empowered here that if they can think of something that they can actually go and execute on it or meet people that can help them execute on it. But the challenge starts to come in that it's rare that one person, whether it's a founder or a couple people on a team, have all the skills necessary to grow and scale a high growth, especially in the tech space, tech startup. And so we find a lot of times often that folks can get like a product off the ground, but they either can't go sell it, which is a people and process problem, perhaps a little bit of tech as well. But then even more so as the company does scale, imagine a world where you're able to get paying customers on your platform. How do you actually grow a team that can be scrappy enough, but also secure enough to grow a really good quality product? Do you have the leadership skills necessary to grow it? Do you know how to manage the finances? Do you know how to market it properly? InfoSec, like all of the other pieces that come with growing a company. And we historically haven't really had the support for these types of folks to do those things. And so now with things like Ann Arbor SPARK and Michigan Founders Fund and Detroit Execs and, all these other groups, we're really trying to build this sort of like ecosystem where people feel like they've got the support that they need to build the skills that they need.
The one thing I always notice with the founder community is they don't have too many people calling bullshit on them.
100%. It is one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I like. I said, you know what? I'm going to
Yeah.
play that role because
Yep.
it's easily done, especially over
Yep.
2 beers. And you will poke a hole and go, "Have you ever you looked at
Yeah.
it that way?" Maybe that's a good company, Randy. We'll start the um, just yelling at
Yeah.
Say,
people like
I love that
about
idea
what
of a
they're
company
doing.
of just you hire me and I tell you things I don't like about your company or what you're doing.
I mean,
Well, if you think about it though, like you surround yourself with people like not saying it's
yeah.
all yes men, but like everybody wants to support everyone to the almost a
Truth.
fault. Where you think, oh my
Yeah.
god, it's amazing. Like I don't know, you met. I think I got you. You know
Yeah.
Jason
I love
David,
him.
right? If you listen to his first podcast with
Yeah.
him on my show, I yelled at him about his name sucks and he needs to rebrand his. And the next time I see him, he like literally changed his company's
Yeah.
name. And I'm like, that's worth a board seat, JD. I don't know what, and he keeps him and
Yeah.
on. But I literally, I'm like, that's the longest it's the longest
Yeah, we've
URL I've
got
ever
to be
seen in
able
my
to
life. I'm
poke
like, it's
holes.
JD.
I was actually having a conversation at a like an investor meetup a while ago, and we were trying to get to the bottom of like what the major differences still are between the Detroit or really Midwest startup space versus Silicon Valley. Still, like people are like, "Oh, Detroit's the new up and coming Silicon Valley." Well, one of the major disconnects still is that in Silicon Valley, you'll have an idea and you can find the people to go build it very, very quickly. It's like this rapid prototype, test it. And if it fails, let's fail fast and move on to the
Hmm.
next thing. So the odds of a company staying intact for over a year are very, very low. But if they do make it to the 1 year point, they have a much higher likelihood of becoming this big unicorn type company. Whereas in the Midwest, we're still in this like Midwest nice thing where no one will poke holes or tell people that their idea sucks. So they'll milk it along for 3, 5, 7 years until they still can't get traction. And now they've wasted all this time instead of just saying the product sucked.
Yeah.
Let's pivot. And if that's not the right thing, let's set it down and go figure out what is. And so, yeah, we need to be a bit more honest or at least ask the right questions to get people on the track to think about it that way.
No doubt. So what I've seen, correct me if I'm wrong, like in the Michigan startup scene, it's more people doing things. It's like a rethinking of a current process or something where
Yeah.
there's a hole. Where Silicon Valley right now, you're a .ai. Like
Yeah.
that's really. And before that, it was I'm the Uber of
Yeah.
you name
Yeah.
it, right? And that's what I kind of appreciated was like people like in Michigan, they're actually building stuff. We're actually like
Building stuff.
really
Really
doing
cool
stuff.
stuff. Yeah.
Um, Something I wanted to ask you earlier. So one of my first jobs when I was in my mid 20s was I worked
Okay.
for the Japanese, like one of the big holding banks, the Japanese trading companies. I ran IT from a sales perspective, and my boss ingrained in my head. And it's funny when people tell when you're an impressionable age, like when someone says something, it sticks with you for life. And in founding, or at least like with business or with anything, he said there always needs to be two: someone that knows where the water is and someone to
Yeah.
dig the well. And for me, it was always like always needed either a partner or someone that looks like a yin yang, someone that looks at blind
Yeah.
spots. Because and that's is that I guess if you the way you see it is, are you seeing more dual founder, seeing more single founder? Is it a personality type that fits into each bucket? Like what are you
I
seeing?
see still a lot of single founders, but because they haven't found a good co-founder yet. And so one of the like I host a meetup on the first Friday of every month called Founders Friday at Bamboo Royal Oak. First Friday of every month, 9 a.m. And one of the things that happens there is people,
We're working then,
oh,
Christina.
well, just don't go to work for an
No.
hour and come to the founder meetup.
I will put it in my calendar.
And they, folks come there and they're trying to find co-founders because how do you find co-founders? I think that there's two camps. One is, I've got a consulting / AI people process tech company in the real estate space. I am a solo founder of that. It's my wheelhouse. I've done it forever. It's, low operational expense, all that fun stuff. But in the tech company space, my tech company, Mark Hudson and PJ Duffy are my two co-founders. I met Mark in 2012-ish. He was a 24-year-old software engineer at the time, and I was leading process and innovation for the Rocket family of companies. And he, came across my desk. Dan Gilbert said, "Hey, will you help this kid figure out if he's got an idea? He thinks we should bring fiber internet to the city of Detroit." So we did feasibility studies and came together and pitched to Dan, and he said, "Cool, go build an internet company." And so we did. It became Rocket Fiber. But when I met Mark back in those early days, we exactly to your point about the idea of a well and building a well, that's how he and I function. I remember looking at him over lunch and said,
Yeah.
today it happens to be the internet, but if tomorrow it's soccer balls, we're going to build cool shit together till the end. And it's because he's very visionary and brand focused. He is very good with design and strategy. And I'm like, cool, now give that to me and I'm going to go execute on the list. And I think in most founder cases, that's an ideal situation. You should be looking for that person who can be really like big picture thinking, and then the other person who's really like operationally focused.
So, talking to P last week, one of the things it's I think another thing that differs Michigan from Silicon Valley is Michigan is trying to actually build with revenue models instead of just pitching into to exit. And it feels like everything you got your hands in is built for revenue models as well. I guess what's your take on both sides? Because I can't comprehend the latter. I mean, it's just because I'm an old head. And that's the way I grew up. Like, you build something, get a subscriber base, and in a revenue model. It's not like, what are you doing? I'm trying to raise my next fund. Are you making money now? I'm like, and never. What I guess,
I got.
Are you in the middle?
Yeah,
Where are
I
you
got
at
some
in
of
that- in that
each.
scale?
My Reconnect side of the house, that's my retirement project. It's a business that I love, that I'm good at, and I've built a really solid team, and we're able to get our hands dirty with these real estate brokerages and mortgage companies and help them figure out how to scale. That I have built that in a way to sustain forever. That's a revenue company. We have built a data company that we are looking to flip as quickly as possible. We have built it in a way that we are building it to sell. So I'm making very different operational decisions, the sort of like CRMs that we have internally and how we're building our internal processes. I'm trying to build very low operationally costs so that we can make as much as we can when we sell it. So I always tell people you've got to be thoughtful about where you're trying to end up. Even if you're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan, what do you actually want at the end of life? Because you need to be very strategic about those decisions in the earlier days.
No, that's fair. I want to talk to you about Reconnect, just because I'm in the midst of trying to sell a house, not me personally, and I feel like the real estate brokerage hasn't changed since the dawn of time, and that's cute that you do a little Instagram reel, but it's really just put a sign in front of the house and take phone calls. Like, what is it poised for a tech revolution? Is it still a people business? Is it a mix of both?
It is still very much a people business. At least right now, I think you've got these little pockets where we're poised to have a lot of technology within a home to allow virtual home tours and, people perhaps to walk houses on their own. But it still is just from a security perspective, you need hands-on a house physically, and to make sure that it's a safe experience for all parties. Process-wise, though, there's a lot of room for innovation and tech. And that's what I'm most excited about right now on the AI side, is how quickly I'm able to get into most of these companies and take these very archaic paper processes and within 90 days completely streamline them so that folks aren't trying to onboard an additional, 20, 30 folks. So it has, I laugh now because when I was at Rocket, I led this 200-person process team that was cross-functionally embedded across the company looking for ways to improve process. But we were not technologists per se. Now I've got this little like renegade group of folks who understands process really, really well, but can also go without even putting their hands on keyboards and build the tech. And then some really technical folks in the background working to make sure that it's secure and properly installed on our client site. So I think we're poised for a big surge in sort of tech innovation in the real estate space, particularly for these brokerages that have just been doing it's so manual. There's so much work. It's like the teacher stuff, right? Where like you've got a full-time job, but then you have to come home and do all the paperwork. And it just doesn't need to be like that anymore.
So is it more document ingestion on the AI front? Are you doing more? Because like we talked to a few months ago now, Randy, the provost at Walsh College, and he was talking about the first time I've heard of someone building a digital twin of
Yeah.
himself. So he ingested like 20 years worth of documentation that
Yeah.
he's written, and he didn't do it because he didn't. But he says my students, I'm the level one support when the students want to
Yeah.
speak with me. And then I had another friend that just wrote a book and created basically a chat bot if you want to talk to the book if you have questions, which I thought was,
Awesome.
I never saw it before. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like texting him. I said, that is the coolest thing because you usually don't see authors going ask me doing AMAs on
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
book. But he spent a lot of time, built out a really good
That's really
LLM.
cool.
But like,
And what like real again,
but
like
like in
really
terms of
awesome
like,
innovation in a space that has looked and felt exactly the same for a long time. I love that idea. Good for him.
yeah. But every real estate agent in town is like, if I could only have
Yep.
four of me, and obviously you can't be there physically,
Yeah.
and you don't want to the real estate agent on the television on a Zoom. That's
Yep.
ridiculous. I guess what is there? What's being thought of that I can't think of in terms of like you just talked about the back end innovation. What
Yeah,
about the
it's,
front?
exactly to your point, it's building out these digital twins where, it perhaps isn't client facing, but that when you're leaving an appointment that you're able to talk to your device while you're in the car and just say, I took Randy out to look for homes today and here's what he thought and here's the types of homes that he was not interested in and here's what he's looking for. And all of that information loads into your CRM and is able to automate a lot of the follow-up processes for you so that you're not trying to, back on Saturday and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what did I do this week? So that's step one, is trying to figure out how to automate a lot of that front end communication. And
I could believe like doing a wearable
yes,
during
exactly.
is, oh my god, they said they don't like
Yeah,
purple.
that's exactly it.
If you completely glossed over it, now you
So
have
that way,
like,
when
yeah,
when
I
you
could see
go in the
that being huge.
when you go into the house the next time, it's prompting it on your phone. Don't forget that, Randy hates purple. And so as you're walking the house, it can be, a conversation about that. Randy, we're using you for lots of examples. It's totally fine.
I'm used to it.
And then from there, document ingestion and a lot of integration into a whole host of technologies that have historically been very disjointed with duplicate data entry across multiple platforms. There really is a lot to be desired in the real estate space for like one single pane of glass to see a home all the way through from listing to close. And so we're really trying to make that a much easier process, both for the client to understand where they are in the process, but for sure the agents and mortgage brokers as well.
So I see a love-hate with Zillow. Where are you at?
I mean, Zillow is smart. I'll tell you what, they keep coming and gobbling up CRMs and
Yeah.
they're building an empire. It's hard for me to say there. I'm Rocket through and through. My husband still leads client-facing technology for Rocket.
Right.
And, Redfin is doing great things as well. There's a lot coming as far as AI and home search is concerned. And it'll be fun to see where it goes over the next few years. There's a lot of industries that are like that,
Yeah.
right? Like the medical industry, there's so much room for growth. And it's going to be really neat to see where a lot of these things go.
See, that's the thing. Like my wife's in medical. She comes home and she types in her laptop for like 2, sometimes 3
Yeah.
hours, and they need, it's with a company that they haven't approved any wearables. It's HIPAA compliant, so there's only a
Yeah.
few, and it's their EMR hasn't innovated yet, so they need to wait for that.
Mhm.
So they're poised for to do some
Yeah.
automation. Like I'm finally doing like the
Yeah.
Zoom meetings with my doctor, which is, again, when it's not my physical. Anyway,
It's
I
true.
digress. I want to talk
Yeah.
about Hum for the simple reason is my very first IT job was selling T1s for $699 plus local loop. So when I see broadband and bandwidth, I get like I don't know if it's good tingle or bad tingle.
That's a
Um,
trauma response, but also feels good because you know about it.
yeah, no, I know. So like I'm thinking like, are you focused on just residential? I see multifamily,
Yeah.
but like where is like the focus
Yeah,
on that?
so that, speaking of pivots, that has been a work in progress for the last few years as well. We actually started the company because when we were running Rocket Fiber, we had a really hard time understanding which is industry wide. I mean, we've had conversations with AT&T and Xfinity as well. There's really no understanding of when there's a move event happening for a human. So you don't know when someone is moving into a new apartment or buying a house until they've already moved in. And then as an internet provider, you've missed the jump ball moment. So our concept originally was that we were building out, we were going to build a new ISP. We had sold Rocket Fiber. We were going to build a new internet company based on all of the information that we had, focused on residential service. And we wanted to build it software backed though, so that we knew when a resident was getting ready to move into an apartment. So we had started to form relationships with property management companies, and we were integrating into their software. And when someone signed a lease, the new resident of that building would get an email that says, we see that you signed your lease. We need your first month's security deposit when you're planning to move in. And here's a link to sign up for your internet service. And so then they would get our link.
Oh.
And it was a great model. We, though, we started to run into issues last year when we saw some political shifts start to happen. And there was a real kind of lockdown situation happening on data privacy, and what sort of data was being shared and how. And so a lot of our property management companies reached out and said, we're going to kind of put a pause on this, and we want to wrap our arms around how we're sharing our resident data in general, which obviously caused a problem for our entire business model. So we pivoted the business at that point, and now what we have become is a way for any human to shop internet at your home address. Right now we're residential only. We'll be adding commercial within the next 6 months or so. And we are embedded within any consumer-facing application. So I use like Rocket Money as an example, or Ven, which is a big leasing software. So if you're in another platform, it might say, hey, we see that you're paying too much for your internet. Would you like to shop options? If you say yes, we would pop up as the widget. You can shop for and check out for internet. We get paid by the provider, and we pay a revenue share back to our API partner.
Yeah, no, always love the agent model. The fact that you figured out how to do it in scale. That was the one thing I always toyed around with being an agent, but then I'm like, that's a lot of, it's all one-on-one. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll shoot for enterprise.
Yeah.
So I'm messing with it now. I'm just seeing who's here. I just moved.
Yep.
I didn't know AT&T was here.
Yeah.
Verizon, of course, now you got the 5G stuff. I didn't know WOW was here. Then you got Viasat and HughesNet and T-Mobile.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Lots of options.
Very cool. No, there absolutely is. Well, there is and there isn't. I think there's been a lot of like, that was my angle I was going to go at was, there was like two options everywhere you went. Oh, you got Spectrum and WOW here. Oh, you have
that was the
AT&T
goal.
Xfinity
That's why
there.
we were building.
But to build out, that entire, to get to the home, that was the most cost. I was working with back when I was with the Japanese. That's when fiber to the home first started, and we were working with a lot of the farmer telcos because they got grant money, and they were running fiber.
It's happening right now in northern Michigan. We, my husband and I have property up on Beaver Island off the coast of Charlevoix, and there's a huge fiber project happening from Traverse City over to the island, and it'll be it'll be cool. The island is split on it right now. Everyone's not sure whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. The island is very. Say what?
No, I was going to say to the left you have a giant 5G tower.
Yep.
And to the right you have fiber to the house.
What is their pushback? Is it just the construction itself, or?
It's what the island will become if it changes too much. Right now, it's very untouched. It's very natural. There are huge pockets of the island that you can't get service, dark sky zones, all of that stuff. And by bringing in infrastructure, you're going to see some technology changes on the island. And I think the islanders that have lived there generationally really worry about, making sure that it doesn't become a Martha's Vineyard situation, that it remains kind of this really homey, Irish town sort of feel.
So let's get in the car and let's drive back to Detroit. One of the common themes that we've had on the show, and we've had Xfinity Comcast on 15 times talking about broadband deserts in the town and how do we get and they had a program which was called, I believe, Internet
Yep.
Essentials, Randy, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. That was like $10 a
Yeah.
month, and I felt like the needle never moved because every time they came on, they said, "Yeah, there's still issues. Yeah, there's still
Yeah.
issues getting residents
Yep.
access." Um, what have you seen on your side of the world since you're involved in this pretty
You
much on a day to
know,
day?
we've definitely seen some movement as far as coverage in general, which is a good thing. When Rocket Fiber started in 2014, we still had this massive, massive digital divide. There were these huge pockets of Detroit that just Comcast and Xfinity and AT&T had
Yeah,
refused to service for a long time. Now we are at least seeing internet being provided to those neighborhoods. And in addition, we're seeing a lot of these really cool renegade efforts, whether it's tech startups out of New Lab that are playing with 5G devices or new tech devices. It's that part's been really cool. And then on the flip side, you've got, these little renegade groups all over the city that have figured out how to kind of take from the rich and give to the poor, and have figured out how to steal some of these pipes off these large scale buildings and build their own little infrastructure.
right.
And that was one of the neatest things for us when we started this, was to get out into the communities and say, what are you doing? How do you make this happen? Because we wanted to make sure that we weren't trying to come in and save folks who didn't want to be saved. We want to be part of the effort. And so I think
Right.
we'll see a lot of growth still, even in the Gilbert Family Foundation. There still is a lot of work being done in digital divide. There's a lot of testing happening right now around Michigan Central Station and New Lab. And I think that there will be a lot of movement happening there in the next couple of years for sure.
The one thing that I think 5G kind of overtook it, but there was always those when you talk renegades, it just sparked my mind. I was always friends or always hung out with the guys that founded Gigatrans and then like Tally Marcus, and there's always been
Yeah.
that almost like pirate
Mhm.
radio that was shooting microwaves on
Yeah.
building tops, and not that I don't know if that never scaled to the point where it's ubiquitous, but like I feel like it's still pirate
Yeah.
radio.
It was happening.
Is that ever still going to
Yeah,
be a
we
thing?
we spent some time with a group. I will not name names because I don't want them to end up getting in trouble. But that's exactly what they did. They got on rooftops and figured out splitting some of these service lines, and then they taught people who lived in the communities. They would do these community education seminars where they'd bring people in who were interested in learning how to build their own little infrastructure networks. And they would teach them with paper plates and string how to point satellites from building to building in order to kind of hop, skip, and jump this stuff. And so part of our mission when we were running that company was figuring out how can we provide those pipes legally so that you don't have to steal it,
Right.
or get corporate sponsorships who want to provide a section of their large pipe to these groups who want to then teach folks how to build. Because in the end, it was really cool technology that we were teaching in the communities. And that continues to spread. And then within that, they're figuring out how to build their own intranets as well, so that they can communicate about health issues within their neighborhoods and crime things that are happening. So just really cool stuff. Very, very self-taught and self-driven.
As an old head who got freak codes to get free long distance so he can call my favorite BBS, I'm still in love with that whole secondary world, even though I work for the
Yep.
bigs. I always like the ground stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you like, we were arguing about TV the other day, and I had to cancel FanDuel to go pick up Detroit Sports next. I wanted to watch
Yeah.
the Tigers, and I'm like, I got to get MLB TV
Yeah.
now, and I'm subscriptioned out. Like now I can't watch. I gotta get ESPN Unlimited because I can't watch
Yeah.
WrestleMania
Yep.
without it.
Yep.
You know,
We are, we have a
it's
friend.
getting to the point
We
where
have a friend
like
moving to France right now, and we are hosting a bunch of stuff on our Plex server so that when they get there, they can log in and still be able to watch games and all of that stuff. So we're recording Saturday Night Lives and all of this stuff so that they can still watch things from France. So it's still fun. You can still do it because, yeah, we're all
my
subscriptioned out.
yeah, I know I grew up. My father had pirate boxes. I remember getting on TV before there was even
Yeah.
cable, like with a pirate box. And now they sell them at
Hmm.
Walmart. and I don't want it in my house. I just don't. Like I went through the whole. I think I went through 4 laptops during LimeWire years. So I mean, like I just don't want it in my
Totally.
house.
Yep. I get it.
So are you? You're. I know. I don't want to say you're excited about AI. We're forced to talk about it now. We're not allowed to say agentic on the show.
Oh,
We've
okay.
banned it. Um, what? Just because
Because
it was such
everyone was saying it. Yeah.
it's a query. Yeah, everyone. Yeah. I did not want to say we spoke at New Lab last week. I didn't want to say it was a query. I would have got thrown out of the building. Um,
Prompts.
um, without being said, what I can tell you a few things where I'm excited, but what it was like, especially in the
Mhm.
fields that you're in. What is the most thing that's exciting you other than like document processing? I get it, and research and all that, but like, is there anything that you're doing that it's wowed you?
Speed. Like
Or
I can't believe I am obsessed with the fact that I can think about something and build it, and it takes me like 15 minutes. Like I was in a meeting the other day and someone was like, I wish I had a dashboard that just showed me this thing. And I was like, boop, 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 done. And then I can bring it to my really super smart, very, very, very technical folks, my architect type folks, and say, great, now how do I scale this and make this work? The ability to think of something and test it is so massive, particularly in the tech startup space, because it means that you don't need capital to be able to try something and to know if it's going to work and figure out if you can build a revenue model around it. You can just think of something and do it. And I'm encouraging people who are afraid or say, I mean, everybody, my non-technical folks are still like, well, I use ChatGPT for emails. We get a lot of that. And I'm like,
don't
no,
knock
like
it off.
load Claude and tell it to build a freaking Rubik's Cube that solves itself. Like anything you can think of that would be fun. Just be creative and start to use some of these tools and figure out how to make it work. That is some of the stuff I'm most fascinated by. I feel like as a deep process person, as like I love innovation. I love creative people who are able to think of something and build it. Like it's the coolest thing ever to me. And so now I still call myself non-technical, although I'm like building really robust things that like my very, very technical husband comes home and I'm like, look what I did today. And both of us are blown away. And it's just to me so exciting. Like I think, there's a lot of fear around it too, and for the right reasons. Um, and
Yeah.
and not to take away from any of that, because all of it is super valid, but it also is very, very exciting. And so how do we do it responsibly and respectfully, I think, as we continue to grow and scale. But I just think it's so awesome. Like, I don't know, speed of innovation.
When anybody runs at me and says it's coming for your jobs, I always try to say it's a speed
Yeah.
thing. I answer it the same
Yeah.
exact way. Um, well, you can do like we had a CIO from a law firm on, Dave Williams, couple episodes ago, and he goes, it frees up the research for them to do more technical
Totally.
things. And I was, it took me a minute to digest it, going, oh yeah, I get it now. Like you're never going to get rid of the
Mm,
human, but now you're enabling the human to be more productive.
yeah.
So that my biggest argument was always like, hey, we implemented this thing that saved everyone 2 hours
Right.
a week. And we're like, great, great. What are they doing now with those 2 hours? Are they innovating? Are they becoming faster? Are they just
Yeah.
doing more? Or are they sitting at
Right.
the coffee cooler or the
That's
water
exactly
cooler?
it. And I like
So it
with, we
goes
yeah,
back to
we
process.
look at, we went from not having the internet to having the internet, and everyone still has jobs. Like there's so much fear around that. Now I do think we will see this period, and we've already begun to see it, where things will shake out a little bit, right? Like roles that previously existed may not be needed in this new world, but they will morph and change in other sorts of roles. And so how, as a human, are you staying involved in that change versus sitting back and doing, thinking that you don't have any control? I think like leaning into these tools
Yeah.
and figuring out how to make yourself a valuable person as the world is evolving is so critical right now. And finding groups that help support that, and these little AI meetups where you can just go learn and sit. Um, they exist. They're everywhere now. So really immersing yourself in that
Yeah.
space and figuring out how to grow, because it's one of those, like, if we're not growing, we're dying things. And we are seeing that happen right
Yeah. Yeah.
now.
What are you? I'm dying to get your take. Every once in a while I think and I hurt myself. But this time I thought of the shift of when things were going sideways. Told everyone to
Yeah.
learn to code, and then I start talking to people, and they say software's dead, and I feel like I do when I go over the thing at Cedar Point, going, "Oh my God, we spent
Yeah.
years with boot camps and
It's true.
training and teaching and telling and." Like, now
Hmm.
what? And I keep being hopeful that it's only that we get to
Yeah.
do more. Um, I'm dying to know what your thoughts are on that, 'cause I know you've probably spent more time than
Yeah,
I
and I
thinking
think
about
that
it.
that's it. We will be able to do more. I mean, we were able, when we pivoted our product last February, we were able to rebuild what we had basically spent the last 2 years building in a new model within 3 months. We went from a 2 year build cycle to a
Yes.
3 month build cycle. And part of that was us as non technologists figuring out how to build very quick hit prototypes and beta tests, and then passing it along to our really great engineers to say, this is what we want, now go make it work. And that's
Yeah.
really what I think we'll see, is that we just, yeah, I mean, and I think the funny thing about it is that, you guys know, like, at some of these large corporate spaces where we've spent all this time, exactly to your point, like hands-on code, deep in the code, these projects will go on for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and everyone is exhausted and burned out, and it's not getting to the finish line. And then we're changing priority, and then we drop the thing we just spent the last 2 years building, and now we're on to the next shiny object. And now it feels like we don't have to do that anymore. We can have an idea, build it in 3 months, and then execute on it and move on to the next thing, which I think for technologists who have been a little bored or have felt like some sense of, what am I doing? There's excitement in that. And so I think it's just, again, leaning in and figuring out how to move at a clip, and setting down the fear, because it's not going to stop. And so sitting in those fear spaces is not going to be helpful. How do you find people who can support you in this next evolution?
But I know, like, and I'm
Mhm.
not a coder, but when you hang out with enough of them, you hear all the
Yeah.
side chatter, and then you formulate opinions. But like, people have based religions on Agile and Scrum, and I'm looking at that going, oh my God, do they need to find a new
Hmm.
deity?
Yeah.
Not to be funny, but that's the way of the world right now. That was a sharp 180
Yeah.
they had to
Yep.
take.
It's true. Lots of the project management and project execution stuff will shift. How I think is left to be seen. I don't know that it all necessarily goes away. Like, there still does need to be rapid iteration, rapid innovation, testing, and figuring out, is this the right thing?
Yeah.
And if so, yes. If not, pivot. I think it just allows us to be more innovative and try things. We historically have not been able to try things, especially in the corporate space. You have an idea, you've got to make a commitment, you're throwing 300 people at it, and you're spending 2 years to do it. And it's very expensive, and there's no coming
Yeah.
back from that. You're either in it for multi-millions of dollars, or you're not. And now it's like, no, throw a little tiger team at it, see what it looks and feels like. Is it cool? Yes. If so, then we throw a couple hundred people at it. And if not, then we set it down and move
Yeah.
along.
That's what breaks my heart more, in the consulting world, is you'll hear this. I used so and so
Yeah.
company. I'm 7 figures in the middle somewhere between
Yeah.
7 and 8, and it's
Totally.
DOA right now, and you're like, oh, just like, what do you? And as a company, they still have to move forward. They can't
Yep.
pause or stop.
And so, I mean, even in the
Um,
consulting world,
it-
everyone's got to figure out new revenue models. What you used to be able to come in and charge 6 figures for, now there are scrappy companies who are able to come in and build that for a couple $1,000s to at least try it and see if it works. And so, how do you,
yeah.
as a consulting group, also figure out getting on some of these trains? And yeah, I don't know. It's really cool and also terrifying. I get both sides of it for sure.
Yeah. Just hang on.
Mhm.
Yeah. not to use a pun, but we are on the rocket
Yes.
ship.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
you know, that was awful. Just cut that out, Randy. Don't use that. No, I'm just kidding. Um, what? All right, we'll wrap in this.
Yeah.
I love these when you could sit and I could sit here for like 5
I know,
hours and
my
ask you
favorite.
questions. But like, what is this is going to be the easiest one, but like, what are you most excited about? That's too easy. But like, honestly, what are you most excited
Yeah.
about? Because like, you got your hands on a lot of different things, and it's a lot of moving parts in a lot of different
So
directions.
community stuff for me is what I'm always most excited about. After spending 20 years in corporate, when I left that world, it smacked me straight in the face that first week that I was not there anymore, where I said, everyone that I know in my life is tied up into this corporate world. I don't know anyone on the outside. I don't know how to find a job. I've never interviewed. I don't know what I want to do next. And so I always tell people, if I could go back in time, I wish that I had spent more time focused on myself and the things that I actually wanted and how I wanted to show up as a person and all of these things. So I've really spent a lot of time in that space in the last 5 years, as I've also been working on building new companies and having my hands and stuff. The communities all throughout Michigan are insanely powerful. Detroit Executives Association is a 100-year-old organization. We meet weekly at the Detroit Athletic Club. It's service-based organization, so think like painters and woodworkers and car shops and beauty spas. And it's really a group to help support each other, business to business exchange. I'm part of the Michigan Founders Fund, where we're really invested in the growth of high growth tech founders. Ann Arbor SPARK with, deep sort of generator accelerator work with some of these startup founders to help them go from 0 to 2, 3. And then all of these meetups, we've got Michigan Tech Week coming up in May 19th through the 21st. Be at that. Like, there's just these really powerful spaces to spend time with people who are not doing what you do every day. And you can feel inspired and motivated and know that, be reminded that the work you're doing is probably not that deep. Like, we get so stressed out in our own bubbles. And then you meet people at these founder meetups and you're like, oh my gosh, you're figuring out how to get space debris out of space. Like, what in the world? And there's people curing cancer, and I'm just over here with my like little internet shop startup. Like, it's not that deep. So being in these founder groups is so awesome. The work that you guys are doing, the community work that you're doing, bringing all these tech people together, giving people just space to vent and learn and grow from each other. Just be out there, go meet people. For years we kind of sat in these little house bubbles of ours and did Zoom calls and all this stuff. And it can be hard and feel uncomfortable to get back out in the world and talk to each other. But that is the stuff that we need to be doing. If you're worried about your job, get out in the world and meet people who will help you figure that out. You are not alone.
Love that. It reminds me, I was lucky enough to be able to do a TED Talk in 2018 about this journey and helping people with jobs. And I had to follow someone that was like saving babies. And I'm like, here I come up, we're talking about drinking beer with friends and you're saving babies. I feel like so small in this world.
Right? But it's such a good reminder for all of us.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, indeed. But I can't thank you enough for the time you spent with us. I look forward to getting on your calendar on a couple of these events. We definitely have a lot more that was unsaid. But Christina Fair, you can find her on LinkedIn. We'll put her LinkedIn on the show notes. You don't have to accept all of them because just
I
throwing
love
it
it.
out there.
I'm happy to meet people. See.
Yeah, indeed. No, I appreciate it. And thank you for the time. And we're going to wrap things up. Christina Fair, on behalf of Randy, I just messed up the outro. What am I doing? We're going to wrap things up for this episode of the IT and the D Show.
On behalf of Randy and Bob, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.